There comes a point in life where exhaustion hits differently. Not the kind that comes from work or lack of sleep, but the kind that settles deep in your soul. You get tired of explaining yourself to people who never cared to understand. Tired of fighting battles that only left you empty. Tired of carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. In that still moment, when the noise of the world feels overwhelming and the weight of it all presses down, something inside you shifts. You begin to understand that not everything deserves your reaction. You don't have to meet every insult with a response, every betrayal with anger, or every judgment with explanation. You can train your mind to remain at peace, not because you've gone cold, but because you've found freedom. Freedom from the opinions of people who don't know your path. Freedom from the expectations that never aligned with your truth. Real strength isn't loud or aggressive, it's quiet, composed, and unshaken. True power shows up in your ability to remain still when everything around you is spinning. That's growth. That's healing. You must protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You must fight for it, not with fists, but with restraint, with wisdom, with self-control. The most powerful person is not the one who speaks the loudest, but the one who can walk through chaos without losing their balance. So many people live in constant reaction, reacting to disrespect, reacting to opinions, reacting to silence, reacting to anything that pokes at their pride. But at some point, if you want to evolve, you have to stop reacting and start mastering. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. It means feeling them fully and choosing how you express them. It means selecting calm when chaos begs for your attention. Think of emotional discipline like taming a wild beast. Initially it fights, it resists, it lashes out. But with patience and strength, that wildness becomes something powerful and controlled. Every moment you're triggered is not a sign of weakness, but an opening to grow stronger. In that instant, you have a choice: to act from a place of pain or from a place of wisdom. Your response in that moment defines your power. People who try to provoke you are looking for your reaction. It fuels them. But when you choose silence, when you pause, when you stay still, you take away their control. You win the moment without lifting a finger. Control isn't loud, it's composed, centered, steady. That's what emotional discipline is. It separates those who drift through life from those who move with purpose. Society celebrates quick comebacks, fast reactions, the appearance of strength. But real strength lives in patience, in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's the ability to hold back, to wait, to stay rooted, even when storms rage around you. It's like standing in the middle of a downpour and remaining dry. Not because the storm isn't real, but because you've prepared for it. You've endured worse. When someone tries to provoke you, the impulse to lash out can be strong. It may even feel satisfying for a brief moment. But what feels good in the moment often leaves a void. Growth is when you can face that same fire and not get burned. When you can acknowledge the heat, but choose not to get consumed by it. Emotional discipline isn't about being unaffected. It's about being intentional. It's knowing when to engage, when to walk away, and when to simply observe. Not everything needs your energy. Some things are so far beneath where you are now that they don't even register. As you rise, the noise fades. Life and people will continue to test you. They'll send insults masked as jokes, betray you with smiles, and disappoint you with expectations you never agreed to. But how you respond, that's the truest reflection of who you are becoming. Discipline of the heart isn't forged in comfort. It's formed in pressure, in heat, in conflict. It's easy to stay centered when everything's going right. The real test comes when everything is wrong. Can you stay grounded? Can you keep your peace when your name is being dragged and the world expects you to crack? They want a show. They want your reaction. But when you choose not to give it to them, when you remain calm and rise above, you leave them confused. You reclaim your strength in silence. That's what emotional discipline gives you. It makes you untouchable. And with every step forward, with every level you rise, you'll find yourself choosing peace more often. Not because you're indifferent, but because you finally understand your value. You know your energy is too valuable to waste on chaos. So you guard it, not out of fear, but out of love for the person you've worked so hard to become. There's a quiet kind of strength in allowing yourself to feel anger without letting it control your actions, in recognizing your hurt without letting it define who you are. You can feel the weight of frustration and still respond with clarity. You can carry disappointment and still move with grace. That's not weakness, it's wisdom in motion. But you don't arrive there overnight. It takes self-awareness. It takes humility. It takes the honest desire to stop giving your emotional energy to every bit of chaos that knocks on your door. Emotional discipline teaches you to pause before reacting and ask, is this really worth disturbing my peace? Is this worth stepping out of character for? Most of the time the answer is no, because so often what provokes you isn't about you at all. It's someone else's pain, their insecurity, their unresolved mess. Once you see that clearly, it loses its grip on you. That's the turning point. That's when you stop dancing to the tune of someone else's dysfunction. You stop letting small minds drag you into pointless conflict. You become a steady presence, grounded and focused, with no time or energy to waste on arguments that lead nowhere. The beauty of emotional discipline lies in how it transforms pressure into growth. Every angry message you don't reply to, every insult you let float past, every shady remark you ignore becomes a moment where you chose power over pettiness. It's your way of saying, I don't need to prove myself to people who can't see my worth. And the more you choose that path, the more natural it becomes. You begin to realize peace isn't just something that falls into place. It's something you work for, day in and day out. Every choice matters. React or respond, retaliate or rise. And with each choice to rise, you teach yourself who's really in control. Not your anger, not your ego, not your pain. You. That's the kind of control no one else can touch. It lets you walk through disrespect, not because you didn't notice it, but because you've grown beyond the need to react. Your peace becomes more valuable than your pride. That's how warriors are built, not through constant battle, but through quiet understanding. As you build emotional discipline, you start to see the truth behind people's words. You catch the manipulation that comes dressed as care, the jealousy hiding inside compliments. And instead of confronting it all, you observe, you process. You step back in silence with self-respect because you no longer feel responsible for fixing or proving anything. You understand now. Validation from the wrong people isn't worth chasing. Your calm becomes your protection. Your silence becomes your message. Your discipline becomes your strength. This kind of mastery doesn't make you flawless. It makes you resilient. It means you faced your pain, felt the weight of it, cried the silent tears, and still found your balance. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Stronger than the noise, stronger than the past, stronger than the need to constantly be understood. And with that strength comes clarity. The more you stay anchored in it, the more you attract things that align with your peace. The noise fades. The nonsense disappears. All that's left is focus. Emotional discipline isn't about pretending not to feel. It's about learning how to express those feelings in ways that build rather than break. It's a daily commitment to your own growth. Each day you decide, I won't let the outside world disturb my inner peace. It's not a one-time choice. It's a mindset, a way of being. And yes, you'll have moments where emotion flares, where pride wants to take over. But that's okay. Growth isn't perfection. It's awareness. And every time you choose composure over chaos, you strengthen your core. You become less shaken. You stop being tossed around by emotional storms and start standing firm. That's how real transformation begins, because the person who has control over their emotions has control over their life. They enter every room with calm confidence. They face challenges with clarity. They love deeply without losing themselves. That's the goal, to remain unbothered, not by closing your heart, but by elevating your perspective. Most people spend their energy on things that don't deserve it. They give away their focus to temporary problems, to opinions that won't matter in a week, to people who haven't earned their time. But something shifts the moment you start choosing where your energy goes. You realize it's not unlimited. It's your most valuable currency. Spend it wisely. Would you give away all your money to someone who doesn't appreciate it? Of course not. So why give away your peace, your focus, your strength to people and situations that haven't earned it? It's time to protect your energy the same way you protect your biggest dreams. You can't grow, heal, or truly win if your energy is constantly being drained by chaos, by arguments you don't need to have, by people who thrive on drama, by situations that rob your joy and leave you feeling empty. This is where awareness becomes essential. You have to start asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this helping me evolve, or just dragging me back into cycles I've outgrown? Your future is shaped by how you answer those questions. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and often reckless. A response is thoughtful, intentional, and rooted in self-control. If someone disrespects you and you snap back without thinking, you've handed over your energy on their terms. You've let their chaos dictate your state. But when you pause, breathe, and choose peace over pettiness, you regain your power. Power over your emotions, your space, your life. Understanding what deserves your energy also means recognizing what doesn't. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every situation needs your involvement. Some things are best left unaddressed. Some people are best kept at a distance. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. People will try to pull you into their storms, their drama, their dysfunction. But it's your responsibility to stay centered. That isn't selfish. That's wisdom. If something costs you your peace, it's already too expensive. If it drains you more than it develops you, it's not a worthwhile investment. It's a loss. And you've got to stop treating losses like obligations. Think about how often you feel tired, not physically, but emotionally. It's rarely just the workload or the daily hustle. It's the subtle, constant drain of misdirected energy. That one conversation that weighed on you all day. That one person you keep forgiving, even though they keep hurting you. That one thought you revisit, even though it brings you nothing but pain. This is why managing your energy is more important than managing your time. You can have a wide open schedule and still feel exhausted if your energy is being poured into the wrong things. You reclaim your strength by recognizing what's been stealing it. Start observing how you feel after certain interactions. Do you walk away feeling lighter or heavier, inspired or confused, calm or anxious? Your body and spirit are always giving you signals. You just have to listen. The right people will respect your energy. The right environments will nurture it. That's why you have to become more selective. Not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you've learned to value yourself. Your energy isn't infinite, it's sacred, and you don't owe explanations for protecting it. You don't have to justify why you're distancing yourself. why you're not replying, why you no longer show up where your peace can't exist. Silence can be more powerful than words. Stillness can be louder than reaction. Some people feed off your emotional response. Some conflicts continue because you keep showing up to them. But once you learn to pull your energy back, to disengage, to stop investing in what's already dead, everything changes. You grow. You become stronger. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself first. It's not about being cold. It's about being conscious. You stop trying to fix people who aren't willing to grow. You stop explaining your value to those who can't even see their own. You stop trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. That's how you protect your power, not by shutting down, but by becoming intentional with where your emotional energy flows. And once that shift happens, your life starts to align in ways it never could before. Every one of us has limited capacity, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can't pour endlessly into others and still expect to feel whole. Unless you treat your energy like the precious asset it is, you'll run empty. Choosing what deserves your energy means choosing peace over pressure, clarity over confusion, progress over distraction. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop needing approval from people still lost in their own story. You start saying no with confidence and yes without resentment. That's what it means to own your energy. And once you do, everything begins to shift. That shift alone has the power to change everything. Some people won't like it. They'll label you selfish, distant, arrogant. Let them. When you stop being accessible to chaos, the ones who depended on draining your light will try to guilt you for reclaiming it. But you must stay rooted. Protecting your energy isn't about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about finally deciding to be better for yourself. You've already done it the other way. You've overextended yourself. You've given endless chances. You've tolerated what your soul was begging you to walk away from. Now it's time for boundaries. Not walls of bitterness, but boundaries built from self-love. Boundaries that quietly say, I'm no longer giving pieces of myself to people who keep breaking them. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. We get so used to leaking energy that we don't notice the toll it takes. We normalize stress. We accept anxiety. We wear burnout like a badge. But the truth is, much of that fatigue doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from giving too much to the wrong people, the wrong problems, the wrong priorities. Knowing what deserves your energy means setting clear standards. Not everything urgent is important. Not every message requires a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. You must begin measuring everything by one question. Does this support my growth? If it doesn't, it drains you. If it doesn't align with your future, it's holding you back. You're not here to babysit dysfunction. You're here to heal, to build, to thrive. And you can't do that while constantly being pulled into storms that aren't yours. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your peace. Reclaim your right to walk away without guilt from anything that dims your light. You'll know you're rising when peace starts to feel better than attention, when solitude becomes richer than shallow conversations, when doing less feels more powerful than proving yourself. Knowing what deserves your energy is a daily decision to tune into your higher self and choose presence over performance, growth over chaos, clarity over noise. It's realizing you don't have to carry what doesn't belong to you. You don't have to chase closure where there's only confusion. You don't have to explain your value to anyone committed to misunderstanding it. And that's where real power begins to expand. When you realize your time, your focus, and your presence are all investments, you stop giving them away cheaply. You stop pouring yourself into emptiness and start feeding what feeds you. The right people, the right goals, the right spaces. That's where your energy belongs. That's where you align. That's how you move forward without burning out. Not loud, not frantic, but intentional, quiet, steady, unapologetically clear. There is a power in silence that words can't touch. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your response, your energy, silence becomes your strength. Not avoidance, not weakness, strength. Silence is a boundary. It's a declaration that says, I won't lower my frequency to match dysfunction. There's a quiet maturity in choosing not to respond to every insult, not to explain yourself to every doubter, not to show up to every argument. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means protection. It means choosing peace over performance and stillness over noise. Some may misread your silence. They may think you're cold or indifferent. What they won't see is the inner power it takes to stay grounded when your ego wants to react. They won't see the healing happening behind the stillness. Because when you stop speaking, you start listening to yourself, to your instincts, to what actually matters. Silence isn't empty. It's full of truth, full of clarity, full of lessons. When used with intention, it becomes louder than any response. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to explain your worth. Your silence says everything. It says, this no longer deserves my energy. I've moved on. Silence holds wisdom, the kind that observes instead of reacts, that reflects instead of explodes. You learn more by watching patterns than listening to promises. In silence, you see people clearly. You see who respects your boundaries and who constantly pushes them. You notice the noise for what it is, distraction, ego, fear, and you no longer feel the pull to respond. Silence isn't about hiding your voice. It's about mastering it. It's knowing that peace is priceless and not every moment deserves your presence. Sometimes silence is how you guard your peace from those who never learned how to respect it. It's how you reclaim your power from situations that no longer deserve your presence. And the ones who thrive on conflict won't understand. They'll push harder, raise their voice, try to provoke a reaction. That's exactly when silence becomes your shield. Not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. Because you've come to understand that not everything is worth your attention. You're not here to show up for every conflict that calls your name. You're here to grow. And growth often happens quietly, in the moments when you pause, take a breath, and let your silence speak on your behalf. There's a unique strength in not needing to be right, not needing to be heard, not needing to win every argument. That's where real emotional maturity lives. Silence becomes the sound of restraint, the strength to walk away from fights that feed nothing but pride. Some people are addicted to noise because they're afraid of what silence might reveal. But you're learning to see silence differently. It's where healing begins. It's where clarity lives. It's where you catch your breath and gather your strength. So when the world gets loud, when people bring drama, negativity, confusion, don't meet it. Don't mirror it. Just breathe. That pause is your power. That stillness is your strategy. Because not every situation deserves your voice. Some things should end without a word. Not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. Your silence says, I value my peace too much to waste it here. As you evolve, you become more careful with your words. You don't speak to fill silence. You speak to bring meaning. And when words won't serve you, you hold them. You let your discipline speak instead. Choosing not to react doesn't mean you didn't notice. It means you evaluated the moment and decided your peace mattered more. Silence isn't empty. It's full of presence, full of intention. It's what happens when your emotions want to rise, but you stay grounded. That's mastery. That's strength. Sometimes silence is the clearest form of communication. It tells the world you're done explaining. It lets people wonder why you've pulled back. It lets assumptions reveal themselves without you lifting a finger. Because silence doesn't beg for understanding. It stands in its truth. It says, "I've said what I needed." Or maybe you were never listening anyway. It's not always easy to stay quiet, especially when you want to be heard, when your heart is full, when your mind is racing. But in that moment, when the urge to react is loudest, silence becomes the boldest move you can make. You're not stepping back because you're weak. You're rising above because you've grown. You're not seeking validation. You're reclaiming your focus. In silence, you reconnect with who you really are, away from the noise of other people's opinions. You remember that not every action needs your reaction. Some things are too small for your energy. Some people no longer belong in your space. So you stop arguing. You stop explaining. You walk away with a calm smile and a quiet exit. That silence echoes louder than any response ever could. You'll know you're healing when silence doesn't feel like a punishment, but a form of protection. When being misunderstood doesn't shake you, when being ignored doesn't wound you, that's the shift. That's when you realize your worth was never tied to how much noise you made. Silence becomes a confident choice. You stop chasing conversations. You stop begging to be heard. You stop forcing understanding. You simply allow people to reveal who they are while you stay anchored in your peace. Because the truth is, if someone truly values you, they'll hear you even when you're quiet. If they don't, no amount of talking will change that. Silence filters your life. It reveals who listens and who fades away. It reminds you that you don't need to exhaust yourself proving, defending, or explaining. You just need to stand still and let silence do the sorting. It's not about apathy. It's about awareness. It's knowing what drains you. It's recognizing that you can't grow in chaos. You don't owe your energy, your voice, or your time to everyone. Silence becomes the message they never made space to hear. People will test you. They'll poke at your peace to see if you'll break. They'll stir chaos to see if you'll react. But when you stay quiet, when you remain still, when you refuse to feed the fire, they lose. Because they expect noise. They expect the game. But silence ends it. Silence breaks the pattern. And in that stillness, you rise. You've learned that not every storm needs your sail. Not every fire needs your effort. Some things extinguish faster when you stop giving them your energy. Silence is how you win battles that were never worth your time. It's how you protect your mind, preserve your peace, and choose inner wealth over outside approval. It doesn't mean you're not hurting or that you don't feel. It means you're healing quietly. You're building, growing, and rising without needing an audience. Because real transformation doesn't need noise, it needs focus. While others talk, you move. While they seek attention, you seek purpose. And eventually you realize the loudest are often the most unsettled. But you're learning that silence is strength. It's the language of confidence, of clarity, of peace that doesn't need to prove a thing. When you stop explaining yourself to those unwilling to understand, you protect your dignity. When you stop arguing with people who only listen to reply, you protect your time. Silence becomes your boundary. What no longer aligns fades on its own, and what's meant for you comes without force. At first it feels unnatural, but once you experience the calm that comes from not reacting, you won't want to go back. You stop over-explaining. You stop needing to be understood by people still figuring out who they are. You let your peace speak for you. Because sometimes the most powerful message is no message at all. In that silence, you reconnect with your real voice. The one that doesn't yell or chase approval, just exists with steady power. Silence is how you win battles that were never worth your time. It's how you protect your mind, preserve your peace, and choose inner wealth over outside approval. It doesn't mean you're not hurting or that you don't feel. It means you're healing quietly. You're building, growing, and rising without needing an audience. Because real transformation doesn't need noise, it needs focus. While others talk, you move. While they seek attention, you seek purpose. And eventually you realize the loudest are often the most unsettled. But you're learning that silence is strength. It's the language of confidence, of clarity, of peace that doesn't need to prove a thing. When you stop explaining yourself to those unwilling to understand, you protect your dignity. When you stop arguing with people who only listen to reply, you protect your time. Silence becomes your boundary. What no longer aligns fades on its own, and what's meant for you comes without force. At first it feels unnatural, but once you experience the calm that comes from not reacting, you won't want to go back. You stop over-explaining. You stop needing to be understood by people still figuring out who they are. You let your peace speak for you. Because sometimes the most powerful message is no message at all. In that silence, you reconnect with your real voice. The one that doesn't yell or chase approval, just exists with steady power. And still, silence doesn't mean you're done healing. Because what still triggers you still controls you. It's easy to hide pain behind distractions or smiles, but certain words, names, or memories still sting. That's not weakness, it's a signal. A sign that something inside still needs your care. You can't fake peace or outrun pain. What you don't face, you carry. Healing means asking why it still hurts, where the wound came from. Maybe it's betrayal, abandonment, or a past you never had space to process. The body remembers, the heart remembers. Real healing is messy. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about letting yourself feel it, without shame. You don't heal by avoiding triggers. You heal by understanding them. That's how you stop reacting and start responding. That's how you break the pattern, stop repeating the pain, and stop blaming yourself for things that were never your fault. And yes, it might hurt before it helps, but that pain is part of the process. True healing happens when you're honest with yourself, when you stop covering the wound and start cleaning it, when you stop pretending it's fine and say, I'm tired of carrying this. Because triggers don't just disappear, they show up as anger, defensiveness, withdrawal, perfectionism. But once you name what hurts and sit with it long enough to understand it, everything begins to shift. That's when your power returns. That's when you start living instead of coping. Healing isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the most courageous and loving thing you can do. Not just for you, but for everyone who loves you. Most people avoid healing because they confuse silence with peace and avoidance with growth. But real peace comes from confronting the pain, not avoiding it. It's not about staying stuck in the past. It's about going back to the moment you lost part of yourself and choosing to give it love, voice, and closure. And sometimes that closure won't come from others. Sometimes the person who hurt you will never apologize. But that's okay, because you can still choose to heal anyway. Sometimes life won't give you answers for why it broke your heart. But healing isn't about waiting for those answers. It's choosing to stop bleeding on people who didn't cause the wound. It's choosing to love yourself enough to clean what's been hurting, protect your peace, and let go of what already happened. Triggers are not your enemies. They're signals pointing to what still needs your care. Healing is you choosing to listen, not with blame or shame, but with honesty and courage. It's the quiet declaration that says, I deserve to live free from this. And that decision changes everything. You begin to heal the moment you stop letting your past dictate your present. Because every time you react from a trigger, you hand power back to pain that already had its turn. Healing isn't pretending nothing happened. It's deciding that what happened no longer defines you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke something. But that pain is not your identity. That trigger is not your truth. It's a message, not a life sentence. You don't need to stay angry to feel strong. You don't need to be guarded to feel safe. Healing means rewriting the story. You go from saying, "This always happens to me," to saying, "I respond with wisdom now." You breathe before reacting. You pause before spiraling. You stop letting every hard moment pull you out of alignment because you're focused on something deeper now. You're building peace. And peace doesn't mean you're never triggered. It means you've learned not to surrender to it. You stop giving your power back to pain. And as that shift happens, the things that used to shake you no longer have the same grip. The people who once ruined your day now get your silence. You stop chasing what doesn't grow you. You stop explaining your worth to those who can't see it. That's what healing looks like. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you've learned how to feel without falling apart. You've created a safe place inside yourself, so when life gets loud, you stay rooted. You observe more, you absorb less. That strength isn't loud, but it's real. It's built through reflection, patience, and the quiet work no one sees. That calm presence comes from facing your pain, not avoiding it, from asking the hard questions, from learning to soothe your wounds instead of suppressing them. Because healing isn't about controlling the world, it's about mastering your inner one. And when you do that, everything starts to shift. Not because life gets easier, but because you've become stronger. There's no deadline for healing, no one-size-fits-all timeline. You take your time. Some days you feel strong, other days it all feels fresh again. That's okay. Healing is not a straight line. But every time you pause instead of react, every time you reflect instead of explode, you're rewriting your story. Triggers lose their power when you stop fearing them and start understanding them. When you stop seeing them as weakness and start seeing them as opportunities to grow, that's the power of healing. It doesn't erase the past, but it transforms how you carry it. You stop hiding your pain and start honoring the wisdom it gave you. And one day, the thing that used to trigger you becomes what reminds you of how far you've come, because now you see it clearly. Now you've outgrown it. Now you're walking in a peace you earned. And that peace can't be shaken because it came from inside you. Eventually you realize healing isn't just for you. It's for the people you love too. When you heal, you stop bleeding on those who never hurt you. You stop projecting old pain onto new people. You stop repeating patterns that once felt impossible to break. That's what love looks like. Healing so you can show up whole. So you can raise children with peace instead of pain. So you can lead without your wounds leading you. So you can love without fear. It all begins with facing the mirror, asking the hard questions, and doing the work no one claps for. Crying through it, writing through it, praying through it, and most of all, believing that you're worthy of more than just surviving, that you deserve joy that isn't fragile, that you're allowed to feel safe, to trust again, to laugh freely without guilt. Healing what triggers you is one of the greatest acts of self-respect. It's how you show yourself that your story doesn't end in pain. It ends in power. Every step toward healing makes you lighter, wiser, and more unstoppable. Healed people move with purpose, love with intention, and live with clarity. And so will you. Most people spend their energy explaining, defending, proving, but real power doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from building a life that speaks so clearly, you don't need to say a word. You don't need to argue for your worth when your actions already reflect it. You don't need to demand respect when your presence commands it. Creating a life that speaks for you is about quiet consistency. It's not about attention or applause. It's about living in alignment. Waking up early to chase goals, choosing discipline over distraction, walking away from what disturbs your peace. That's what speaks. That kind of energy is louder than any post, any speech, any reaction. You stop chasing validation because your life becomes proof. People can doubt your words, but they can't argue with your growth. They can't question your peace, your progress, your presence. And that's the goal. Not to be the loudest, but to be so grounded that your silence carries more weight than someone else's noise. Let your growth be your response. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to correct the lies. Just keep showing up, keep building, keep rising. The ones who doubted you will see it. The ones who left will realize you never needed them to thrive. And it's not about revenge, it's about alignment. When you're in alignment, you don't need to explain. The life you live says everything. Every healed wound, every boundary kept, every decision made from clarity that becomes the foundation. And eventually, that quiet truth becomes louder than any doubt, rumor, or judgment. Peace can't be faked. Neither can growth. You either live it or you don't. And when you do, people feel it. Especially when you don't say a thing. So stop spending your energy trying to be understood. Use it to become someone so grounded that no opinion can shake you. Because when your life speaks for you, silence becomes strength. Sometimes the best answer is no reaction at all. Just growth, just peace, just quiet elevation. Let your results speak in the rooms where you were once underestimated. Let your peace shine in the places where chaos used to live. Let your progress tell the story no one believed at first. That doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from discipline, from choosing to outgrow rather than outshout, from deciding you'd rather build than beg, from knowing you'd rather shine quietly than scream for attention. Building a life that speaks for you means taking the longer road, the one that doesn't always get applause but always leads to purpose. It means saying no to quick validation and yes to real fulfillment. It means choosing to bet on yourself when no one else sees it yet. Because the same people who once ignored your journey will one day ask how you did it. And they'll see it wasn't just what you did, it was who you became. The version of you that chose growth over gossip, peace over pride, purpose over performance. That version is undeniable. There's a quiet power in not needing to explain yourself. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to your truth. You stop oversharing. You stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you focus inward. You get clear about what you want, what you need, and what you won't accept anymore. And from that clarity, you move forward. You build. You grow. Quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And one day, they notice. Not because you told them, but because the shift is impossible to ignore. You're no longer moved by old triggers. You're no longer shaken by small minds. You're grounded. You're focused. You're clear. And that clarity, that peace, that presence, that's what makes your life speak. You become the proof, not the promise. The evidence, not the explanation. And that kind of energy speaks in every space you enter, boardrooms, relationships, friendships, without you needing to say a word. When your life is grounded in truth and built with discipline, you don't need anyone to validate you. Your life becomes the loudest, clearest voice in the room. People will talk. They always do. They'll assume, criticize, speculate. But when you're focused on building a life that reflects who you truly are, none of that sticks. It bounces right off your piece because you're too busy growing to be bothered. You're too locked into your vision to be distracted by noise. You've come too far to explain yourself to people who don't even understand themselves. That's when your silence becomes sacred. Not because you're passive, but because you're intentional. You've learned that your time is your most valuable currency, and you've stopped spending it in places that don't grow you. You're investing that energy in healing, in building, in becoming the version of yourself that once felt impossible. And the beauty of that journey is that your transformation eventually becomes impossible to ignore. The same people who overlooked you will have no choice but to acknowledge you. The ones who counted you out will have to watch you rise. And not because you fought for their attention, not because you raised your voice, but because you built something undeniable. You created your own lane. You became your own validation. Now your presence speaks what your words never had to. That's power. That's growth. That's what happens when you stop explaining and start evolving. You want to know what real strength looks like? It's not in how loud you are. It's in your movement. It's when your daily habits align with your dreams. When your lifestyle becomes a reflection of your values. When you show up every day with integrity, with discipline, with grace. That's what speaks. Not the post, not the performance, but the way you live your life. And the best part? You don't need permission to start. You don't need approval to stay committed. You just need consistency. Because the world might not notice right away. It might take time for people to catch up to the new you. But that's fine, because you're not doing it for applause. You're doing it for peace, for purpose, for alignment. And the moment your actions start matching your soul, everything begins to shift. Your relationships change. Your energy becomes different. Your decisions become clearer. And the quiet confidence you start to carry, that's what sets you apart. That's what people notice, not because you demanded it, but because the energy is undeniable. When your life speaks truth, when your growth is steady, when your peace becomes non-negotiable, people listen. Even the ones who tried to tune you out. Every healed version of you, every habit you've shifted, every boundary you've enforced, every decision you've made from a place of truth, all of it becomes part of the story your life tells. And that story is your legacy. That's what people remember. Not what you said, but how you lived. Not the noise, but the impact. You become living proof that healing is real, that rising is possible, that you don't have to stay in the same place life left you. And that message, it's louder than any microphone because you've lived it, walked it, earned it. So stop wasting time trying to be understood by those who aren't ready to understand. Keep building, keep becoming. Let your life speak in rooms you've never stepped into. Let your consistency speak when your voice is tired. Let your transformation speak where your name was once doubted. And in time, you'll see that your greatest strength was never in how loudly you could shout. It was in how deeply you could live. That's the real influence. That's the real legacy. A life that speaks not just for you, but for everyone watching you, proving that healing and evolving in silence isn't just possible, it's unstoppable. There comes a point when you realize peace is more valuable than popularity, and your energy is more precious than attention. You start to understand that your environment shapes your spirit. The people you keep close either fuel your soul or slowly drain it. Surrounding yourself with those who don't exhaust you becomes one of the deepest forms of self-respect. It's not about cutting people off out of coldness. It's about choosing to protect your energy. Because when you're always the one giving, fixing, explaining, holding space, you eventually become empty. You begin to run on emotional fumes, worn down by being everything for everyone while receiving so little in return. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Some people carry chaos like baggage and leave it everywhere they go. If you're not careful, you'll start carrying it too, thinking it's yours. But it's not. You don't have to hold what was never meant for you. You don't have to save everyone. Sometimes the kindest, most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is step back and let them carry their own weight. Protect your peace like it's gold, because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. And when you finally experience the depth of true peace, you'll never again waste it on what doesn't honor it. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, support your growth, and respect your energy, something inside you begins to shift. You laugh without forcing it. You speak without filtering. You rest without guilt. It's not that life becomes easy. It's that the pressure to perform, to fix, to pretend suddenly fades. You feel lighter. You feel more yourself. That's the power of being around people who pour into you rather than drain you. These are the ones who don't need you to shrink so they can shine. They don't see your healing as competition. They celebrate your wins as if they were their own, and stand beside you through your lows without keeping score. They don't expect you to suffer to make them feel better. They just love you for who you are. And that's what you deserve. Connections that are mutual, safe, and rooted in respect. You deserve to receive the same level of care, love, and effort that you give. Anything less is not selfish to walk away from, it's survival. You were never meant to struggle endlessly just to feel seen. You were meant to thrive in spaces where your light is not only welcomed but protected. The right people will never drain you, they'll help you rise. But to experience that, you have to be intentional with who you let close. Not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. Some come near just to feed off your energy, to soak in your light, because they've lost their own. That kind of presence is quiet but dangerous. After every interaction, you feel heavier. They downplay your progress, dismiss your dreams, twist your kindness into weakness. You find yourself walking on eggshells, over-explaining, softening your truth just to avoid conflict. That's not friendship. That's emotional labor disguised as loyalty. Real ones, the kind who refill your spirit, don't need you to dim down. They welcome your boundaries without offense. They don't guilt-trip you for choosing peace over pleasing. They bring joy, not noise. They listen, not just to respond, but to understand. They give without expecting a return. And being around them feels like breathing easier. That's how you know. It doesn't drain you, it fuels you. So if someone consistently leaves you feeling small, unheard, or depleted, it's time to guard your space. You can love people from a distance and still protect your peace. You're allowed to outgrow those who once felt like home. Sometimes the people who started the journey with you aren't meant to finish it. Don't ignore the signs. Your energy is your responsibility. You are not required to stay in draining connections just because of shared history. Just because someone's been around doesn't mean they've earned forever. Time spent is not proof of love given. You have to ask yourself, are they feeding your soul or feeding off it? And if it's the latter, it's okay to walk away. That's not cold. That's healing. Because when you remove what drains you, you make room for what lifts you. You stop watering dead plants and start giving your garden a real chance to bloom. Energy never lies. Even if you can't explain it, you can feel it. You feel it in the weight that lingers after a conversation, the unease that shows up after a visit, the emotional exhaustion from trying to keep things together. That's not your imagination. It's your intuition. Listen to it. Trust it. You don't need to justify why someone's presence leaves you empty. Knowing it is enough. Honoring it is strength. And that doesn't make you heartless. It makes you self-aware. You've learned not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. You've learned that your joy, your peace, your energy, they're sacred. And once you start choosing yourself over constantly pleasing others, everything begins to change. You say no without guilt. You rest without needing permission. You speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. And slowly, the people around you shift. The ones who drained you begin to fall away or rise to meet you. The ones who see your value come closer. It's a process, but it's worth it. Because your peace, your mental health, your emotional safety, that's the foundation of everything you're building. Protect it without apology. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. Some people are attached to the version of you that kept quiet, gave too much, and accepted too little. When you start setting boundaries, they don't recognize you anymore. And that's okay. Growth isn't just uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable for everyone around you. If your healing offends them, that's their mirror to face, not your mess to clean up. Keep choosing peace. Keep protecting your space. Keep becoming who you were always meant to be. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable with staying the same. Don't dim your light to protect someone else's insecurity. The people who truly love you will never ask you to make yourself small. They won't compete with your growth or feel threatened by your healing. They'll honor your space without invading it. They'll respect your journey without resenting it. Surround yourself with people who speak life into you, who remind you of your strength, who hold you accountable with love, who see your evolution and celebrate it. Those are your people. They don't drain you. They inspire you. Being around them feels like breathing again, like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. That's the kind of energy your soul deserves. And if you haven't found it yet, become it. When you stand fully in your truth, the right people will recognize you by the light you no longer hide. Your energy is sacred. So is your peace. Life is already heavy. You're already carrying your own battles, healing wounds you never asked for, climbing mountains only you understand. The last thing you need is to carry people who refuse to carry themselves. You weren't born to be a dumping ground for unhealed pain. You weren't made to endlessly fix what others refuse to face. You are allowed to protect your light. You are allowed to be selective. You are allowed to walk away from relationships that require you to abandon yourself. That's not selfish, it's wise. You only get one life, and it should be surrounded by those who pour back into you, who speak your name with love, who see your presence as a gift, not a burden. People who remind you you're not too much, not too sensitive, not too broken. That kind of energy heals. And when your life is rooted in those kinds of connections, you thrive, you grow without fear, you rest without guilt, you speak without shrinking, you begin to live, not just survive, with soul-deep peace. And that is exactly what you were created for. Protect your circle. Protect your energy like it's the foundation of everything, because it is. When you begin to train yourself to become unbothered, you unlock a higher version of yourself. You stop living in reaction mode. You stop giving power to every insult, every distraction, every uninvited opinion. You learn that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It shields you. It grounds you. It tells the world you've outgrown the need to prove yourself. Because when you've truly healed, you don't chase closure. You don't chase validation. You don't chase revenge. You simply rise. You evolve. You build. Healing your triggers is one of the bravest, most powerful things you can do. It's not easy, but it's freedom. True peace doesn't mean pretending nothing hurts. It means facing what does, so it no longer controls you. It means breaking cycles, forgiving yourself, and releasing what you've outgrown. And from that, you build a life that needs no defense. You stop over-explaining. You stop begging to be seen. You let your growth speak for you. Through your presence, your discipline, your alignment, your peace, your life becomes your loudest testimony. And because it's built on truth, it becomes a magnet for what's meant for you. You get intentional about your circle. You choose people who pour into your soul, who respect your time, your space, your boundaries. You stop giving access to everyone because now you understand. Not everyone is meant to come with you. You're not cold for choosing peace. You're not heartless for setting limits. You're wise because you know what it costs to be drained. You remember what it felt like to carry everyone but yourself. So now you choose differently. You choose joy. You choose clarity. You choose alignment. You weren't created to be constantly overwhelmed, emotionally exhausted, or entangled in chaos. You were made to rise, to breathe deeply, to live intentionally. Your silence, your healing, your boundaries, these aren't signs of weakness. They are evidence of your strength. They are reminders that you no longer entertain anything that steals your peace. This journey isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally wise. It's about knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You are not here to convince. You are not here to chase. You are not here to shrink. You are here to live boldly, peacefully, and unapologetically. Stand tall in your truth. Heal for real. Speak up with purpose. Protect your peace without apology. And never let someone else's chaos pull you away from the calm you fought so hard to create. You are powerful beyond words when you choose stillness over reaction, presence over performance, and purpose over validation. That is your legacy. That is your light. Keep rising. Stay grounded. God bless you.